Hi everyone, so let's continue with the final part of this reflex topic. So as usual, this is the learning outcome for part 3. So in this video, we're going to learn about the different types of reflexes and also identify some of these disorders of the spinal cord and also the spinal nerve. So in the previous video, we have talked about the monosynaptic reflex, which is the simplest type of reflex. So most reflex arcs are polysynaptic, meaning it requires multiple interneuron interface between the sensory and the motor neurons in the reflex pathway. So also the polysynaptic reflexes produce far more complicated response when compared to the monosynaptic reflexes. So we have several examples of the polysynaptic reflex that we're going to talk about in the next slides. Let's take a look on the withdrawal reflex. The picture represents the automatic withdrawal of a hand from a painful stimulus. So painful stimuli usually trigger the strongest withdrawal reflex. So here, by touching the hot pan, we're going to receive a painful stimulus that travels up to the spinal cord where the sensory neuron synapses to the interneuron. So the interneuron is then going to send the information to the flexor, which results in the contractions of the flexor muscles that cause the withdrawal of the hand from the painful stimulus. So at the same time, the motor neuron to the extensor muscle is inhibited via the inhibitory interneurons. So you need to remember that the withdrawal reflex is much more complicated than the monosynaptic reflex. The distributions of the strength of the motor response depends on the intensity and locations of the stimulus. Next is the cross-extensor reflex. So the cross-extensor reflex involves a contralateral reflex arc. In other words, a motor response to the stimulus also happen on the opposite sides. So the cross-extensor reflex complements the flexor reflex, which is the withdrawal reflex, and both of them occur simultaneously. The flexions of the affected side is accompanied by the extensions of the opposite sides. So let's see one example of cross-extensor reflex. Here is an example. Okay, a person step on a nail. So when you step on a nail, the flexor reflex will pull the affected foot away from the ground, while the cross-extensor reflex, okay, straighten the other leg to support your body. So in the cross-extensor reflex, okay, the interneuron responding to the pain is actually crossed to the other side of the spinal cord. Here, they stimulate the motor neuron that control the extensor muscle, okay, of the uninjured leg. As a result, your opposite leg is straightened to support the shifting weight so you are not falling down. Next, we're going to discuss about the reflex assessments. So reflex are assessed during physical exams. So there are many types of reflex assessments, okay. Here, for example, like bicep, tricep, and ankle jerk reflexes. All of these are the stretch reflexes. And why we need to do the reflex assessment is because we want to know the status of the corresponding spinal segment. For example, if you do the bicep reflex, you want to know the status of the musculocutaneous nerve, the C5, C6. Or if you do the tricep reflex, you want to know the status of the radial nerve, and the ankle jerk reflex, you want to know the status of the sciatic nerve, okay, this S1 and S2, for example. Okay, the Babinski response is a test used to assess the upper motor neuron dysfunctions. So the positive Babinski reflex is normal in newborns due to the lack of inhibition by the descending motor fibers. So this response normally goes away until they are about 6 months old or up to 1 year old. So how to do the Babinski reflex assessment is that you can stroke the foot on the lateral side of the sole, and this produces an extension of the big toe and the fanning out of the other toes. So that is the positive response of the Babinski reflex. So in the normal adult that have no problems with the motor neurons injury, okay, when you do the Babinski reflex, the great toe will move downwards, okay, similarly with the other toes. But if the adult has problem with the motor neuron, or they have a spinal cord injury or stroke, then the result, you can see that the great toe will extend outward, and the remainder of the other toe also will fan out. So that's the example of the positive Babinski reflex. There are many other types of reflex assessments. Basically, we have talked about the stretch reflex. What I want you to do after watching this video is to read on the other type of reflex assessments that is listed in these slides. Now we are moving on to the disorders of the spinal cord and spinal nerve. Here are the few examples. The first one is the spinal meningitis. So spinal meningitis is the inflammations of the spinal meninges due to the viral, bacterial, or other infections. The second one is the peripheral neuropathy. This refers to the many conditions that involve damage to the peripheral nervous system. So one example is the carpal tunnel syndromes. The third one is rabies. So rabies is a disease usually contracted from animal bite, involve viral infections that spread via somatic motor nerve fibers to the central nervous systems and then to the autonomic nerve fibers. This can lead to seizures, coma, and even death. According to the WHO, unvaccinated dogs are the main sources of human rabies death, contributing up to 99% of all rabies transmissions in humans. Next is amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or in short ALS. So ALS is a progressive nervous system disease that affects nerve cells in the brain and in the spinal cord, causing loss of muscle control. In other words, when the motor neurons are damaged, they stop sending the message to the muscle, so the muscle cannot function. So I'm sure you know this guy. So this is the Professor Stephen William Hawking. He is a very well-known scientist in physics. So he has been diagnosed with ALS since he was 21 years old. He passed away in 2018. So he has been lived with ALS for more than 50 years. So if you are interested, you can also watch his movie known as The Theory of Everything. So that's it for this topic. These are the list of the references. Don't forget to join the Kahoot quiz. And with that, thank you for watching.